Okay, so obviously what's been going on with the tariffs and what have you, market obviously had a big sell-off starting from Thursday last week. And I get a lot of questions and among students and honestly among everybody else I seem to know about what my thoughts are. One of the things that I've noticed with the students in the last week is that every time you guys are seeing buying or selling, you straight away just go put it into the swing as though those are as if prints alone is how we have to consider how we play the market. You guys very well know yourselves that the reasoning that this massive sell off occurred is because of these tariff concerns and them being a lot higher than what was expected. But when you guys started going in, and obviously this presents for tape readers a beautiful situation because we can see exactly why these stocks have come down and cratered because we can see all the prints. Now, and I want you guys to type in here as I speak as well. And feel free, like I said to you guys, wave, I don't know what you have to do, wave your hand or whatever it is, and Milan will let you speak. But I was looking, for instance, so we know as of Thursday, massive sell off. Now, when we have this massive sell off, we're obviously going to see lots of big selling prints. We know within the big selling, those who understand the duration of this sell off will also do what? So, the big companies or the big funds and so forth who recognize that this is going to be a situation, there's a few things they're doing. One, they're obviously going to be selling position because they know there's going to be a big sell off, which means a huge pullback in the stocks and wiping away a lot of their gains. So it just makes complete sense for a lot of them to start selling off their positions. During the sell off, what do you think they're also going to do when they have analyzed and understood the extent of this damage? What are they doing as much as they're selling off their long positions? What else do you think they're going to be doing before reposition? No, let's not get too deep. Just keep simple. Keep it simple. So you know that they're going to be repositioning, which means they're going to be selling, most likely, parts of their position, especially if you're a big fund, if you're a big investment bank, what have you. You're more than aware and you have the teams that can analyze and look at this situation. And one, they're going to say, right, the extent of this is not going to be a day or 2 days, but there's going to be quite a significant pullback. What do you think? Who do you think drives stocks up and drives stocks down? The market makers are the ones that drive stocks up and drive stocks down. But when we get into a situation like we're in now, do you think they are the ones who held that move, or was it triggered by what was said and done by government? It was done by the government. So at this point, when they looked and redefined their strategy for the interim, they're going to be looking at, right, this is definitely going to have a big sell off event. So if they know it's going to be a sell off event, does it make sense all the time? And I don't mean this for all the market makers and banks and what have you, but what do you think they're going to do knowing that this is going to be a huge sell down, a huge area of fear? A lot of people are going to get out positions. What makes sense to do first? What do you think they should do first before looking at where they can buy in cheaper? Type in the chat because I want you guys to get involved because I know the answers. I know my thought process on this, but I want you guys to talk and interact with me so that way you guys are very clear about the understanding. So if you were a big bank and you were at the highs and now this news comes out and you are to a high percentage aware that this is a type of news that will create a massive sell-off event, yes, you're going to be repositioning your own position. So maybe you got 10 million shares and you're like, you know what, we're going to get out of 5, just not knowing, and we can add back later. But what else makes sense for them to do? What else do you think they can do? No, not drive down price. Come on, short. You can make money going up, but you can make money a lot quicker and a lot more in this type of event. I mean, most of these tech stocks lost nearly 50% of their value. How long does it take, or how long do you think it took them to gain the 50% as opposed to how much it took them to short that 50%? You don't have to overthink a lot of this stuff. So if I was to do, give me a second here. If we just look at this, for instance, right? Look how far Meta came down. If we, let's say 480. Do you guys see that? $480. Just want to make sure you guys can see what I'm pointing at here. Can you see that right here? 480? Okay, perfect. This came down from $740 all the way to 480 in literally, well, if we don't even want to look at that, let's look at, we're at 410. So even if we just looked at what happened last week or a few days ago. So let's take it from April 1st, makes it easier because it's at 600. To go from 600 down to 480 literally took a week. Right? For them to go from 480 on September 12th and go up to 600 took over a month. For them to truly break above 600 took over 4 months. When we are long in stocks, it typically is going to take far longer to achieve the same amount of gain than it would when you have an event that just happened or an announcement or situation that we see the government happen, and that same 50% only took how long? How many days did that take? It took a week. But for it to get up to that level took a month. And then for it to break that level in total took 4.5 months. At the end of the day, the one thing we cannot forget is market makers are in the business of doing what? What are they in the end in the business of doing? Like everyone else who's in business, making money. So do you think if they know and get into a stock knowing that it's going to increase in value, do you think they know that when government or when Trump did or does what he does, and that will cause a massive ripple effect and monstrous sell-off for days, do you think that they know that that's going to happen to a high percentage? Yes or no? Do you think not only do they know that to a high percentage, that they're going to take a short position and take advantage of this opportunity? Now, along the same lines, do people buy shares quicker or get out when they're scared? So if you know that everything is looking like chaos, everybody's selling off, even every single retail person who has a small portfolio where they've been putting away their little money for days, weeks, months, and years, and suddenly you're down 20, 30, 40%, can they afford to, all of them, or do they feel they can afford to ride that wave up and see how far low it goes and then sit there, buy back more? Do you think everybody has the ability to do that? Most cannot, because they rely upon that money as a safety net. Ask yourself another question. Do you think a lot of people, most people, have the money to even buy back in at a lower price and increase their position? Do you think that is a possibility for most people, or is that all they have to play with? So you're right, Millen. They can't even average down because they don't have the financial capabilities to do so. So if you know that you got all these millions and millions of people who are now going to follow suit and sell off, and the more it goes down, they're going to get even more paranoid and panic more and sell. Do you think the market maker is going to be looking to quickly cover their shorts, buy back in, and save everybody's portfolios? Or are they going to increase the magnitude of sell by applying more downward pressure so that one, they can make more of the fear, and two, they can do what? So, one, they can make more money off the fear, so they will increase the amount that they make on the range of their short position. But what does that also allow to them when they conclude that strategy? What do they do next? They're buying at a further discount. So when I see that a lot of people keep putting in all, oh, look, there's bid here, swing strategy, swing strategy. If you see bid right now in NVIDIA at 106 or 104, is your strategy really, after a stock is down, let's say nearly 30-40%, do you not really believe that the real story here is that Nvidia is going to keep going down? Or do you really believe that there's a time where we got to start looking at when the money flow is challenged, when the money flow is changing and we're seeing long-term positions come back in? Are we looking to play the short term, who knows how little of short we have left? Or are we looking at establishing positions because we know these are great companies? We know that NVIDIA is on the forefront of these chips, which are required by every single thing that's going on in our future with AI and quantum computing. Do we really believe in the end that a company like NVIDIA is going to suffer much? Or in the end, no matter what, whether the prices were to increase because of tariffs, that we would have no choice but to buy them anyway? Do you think they know that? So let me ask you another question as we're going along this line. Apple got murdered. It took a huge hit, as everything else did. Not too many years ago, for those of you who are, of a certain age, can anyone tell me how much the first iPhone or the second iPhone, what the cost was? What was the cost of the first iPhone and the second iPhone? Does anybody remember? And one of the things I'm going to tell you as a side note, you want to become a great swing trader? Know your history, know your timeline of how we've progressed, of how pricing of product and services has increased. It used to be $199 to $299 for an iPhone 1 or 2 or wherever it was. And there you go, Andy. You used to get it free. They used to give you the phone free with a contract. And he's absolutely right. It was a contract. If you had I don't even know if it was a 2 year, Andy. I believe even with AT&T, I believe, and I'm not don't I'm not sure. I'm just, if I remember, that it was even down to a 1 year contract if you just renewed it, right? So at that period of time, what do you think Apple was doing? Do you think that they had already set and determined and clients appreciated the value and the branding of the product? Or was that their stage where they were introducing it to all of us so that we could start building our identity around their product and integrating their product into our life and giving it far more value? That's what they were doing. They were getting us accustomed to what was going to come next. What is a phone prior to this tariffs? What could you pay for the nicest iPhone right now? Forget the tariffs. What is about the price? It's $1,200 to $1,500, right? 12 to 1500. Only a couple of years ago, those phones were going for 600, 700, then 800, then 1,000. Now we got a bigger phone. Now we got a bigger screen. Now we got more memory. We're at 1,500. So even with these tariffs, if Apple comes out with iPhone, I don't even know what number they're on, but let's say they come out with a new version of the iPhone and it's $2,000, do you think people would still pay it? And do you think they're paying it because they like it or because they've done such a job that it is just part of our ecosystem? It is just part of our makeup. We just can't live without it now. Yes or no? So the reality is, if you guys want to be solid traders, what am I getting to? And I see this in so many people. So many people I've spoken to, a lot of the students who contact me. Get out of the emotional response system. Stop being emotional. Stop thinking that your answer is the answer. In the same way we follow as traders, follow what people will do. How many people do you all know that even at 1500 can't even afford an iPhone, but yet they will never be without a new one? How many people do you know? Because you don't need to have an iPhone. You can get a really cheap one for nothing with a contract and will still do the same job. You can SMS, you could do a bit of email check-in, you can call anyone you want, which is basic functionalities of phone. But how many people do you know that always have the newest and latest iPhone, yet every time you see them, they're complaining that they can barely pay their rent, barely fill up petrol in their car, barely go out to eat, can't afford to fly to Europe. But iPhone comes out, they paid 1500 and they got the new one. How many people do we know like that? Loads of people. People will always buy, especially if the company has branded that product into their lifestyle, into their ecosystem, making it so they can't live without it. So the reality is, do you think Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Tesla we're going to leave to the side because there's other issues and so forth that they do have to face, but let's talk about the major ones. Meta. Do you lot think that this will affect them so bad that it will kill them and they will suffer in the long term? Listen to what I said, suffer in the long term. Absolutely not. Because our ecosystems are built around them. They've done it so well and infused themselves so much into our ecosystems that we need them more than they will ever need us. So, if you just take that basic understanding and premise, in the end, does it favor any government, to do these massive tariffs on each other? Is it going to favor any of their GDPs? Is it going to favor any of their economies? Is it going to favor any of how their bases think about them? No, not at all. So this creates what, for people like us, especially who understand what I have said and what I've taught you, and who understand how to read prints. It creates opportunity. So what should we be looking at down here? Are we looking at massive sell? Or are we looking at this as the sell is a lot less to take it a little bit lower so they can do what now? What are we seeing in Nvidia between 88 and 110? And yes, $88 all the way to 110, and then after the news yesterday, 115. What have you mostly seen? And this, I single out Nvidia because as I've watched all of the major companies, that's the only one that I've seen the largest amount of what? Buying. Buying. Now, if I see someone buying, and let's take what Millen said, buying at levels, so let's say 90, 95, and 100. If I saw 10 million shares bought at each level, Millen, is that short term, mid term, or long term? What do you think to a higher percentage it would be? No second guessing there at all, was there, Millen? Because if I'm putting 10 million on, I'm going to ride this back to the top. But here's my other reality. If a stock has come down 40% and I bought 10 million shares, it doesn't matter how much it goes back up. I'm going to make significant amounts of capital. But the reality we know is when you buy millions of shares at a level, that is big companies taking a long-term position. It doesn't matter, Sid. You're not listening to what I'm saying then, are you? What did I just say to you guys? That's what you're doing. If you try to interpret every single print, you're losing the scope of what the overall should be. Do you think there's any way to follow all these prints? Because here's the reality. When something like this happens, does every bank, institution, or whatever it is, those who are capable of buying and selling large amounts, do they all have the same situation at hand? Do they all face the same dilemmas? Do they all have the same thresholds? No. If you were a company that had $100 million and $50 million was in one stock, are you going to be able to sit there and ride the wave, or are you going to have to fire sell? What do you think you'd have to do? If half of your little money was stuck in one stock and this thing's getting killed, are you sitting there, or are you just selling and then taking your loss or taking your little gains that you still have and waiting to do what? You're waiting to buy. If you're a huge company with multi-billions behind you and you got into, let's say, as we're using it, let's say Meta, it's in front of us. So let's say a massive company came in and they bought Meta at, I'm going to go even more crazy and say they held it for so long. I do not know why this is like this, but let's say that they bought it at $400. So if you're in at $400, no matter what happens, are you technically going to lose any of your principal investment? Come on. If you were in Meta, I'll repeat it again for those of you at $400, and this got killed all the way down from 600 to 480. Technically, you're still in profit. So for that person, they might have said, guess what? Yes, we have a belief this is going to get really hit hard. We don't want to give up so much of that profit. I own 10 million shares. I tell you what, let's sell 7. And then we're going to be looking for a re-entry to build that position again. Made a huge profit. They're still in profit overall, and now they can start again. If you were a company who got in at 600 or 550, and you have put 30% of your whole fund into Meta, and now you're getting killed, what are you doing? No emotions. No emotions. All those words of crying, this, no. I'm going to change the way you guys look at trading. So we're not going to allow for any single emotional content. This is how I'm going to teach you all to be solid traders. It's just sell. They're going to sell. Why? Because they looked at their strategy and right now this is against their strategy. So they got to do that. They got to, unfortunately, because you don't win all the time. And this is not an event that anybody could have planned. They could have, because he did talk about tariffs, but overall, nobody realized the extent of what he was going to do. And so, out of understanding that he's working against their strategy and they have too much exposure, they're going to get out. So, when I kept telling you guys mixed prints, I could have sat there and said, big buying, big selling. Oh my God, big buying. Jesus, big sell. Oh, where's this going? This is coming down. No, there's buying. This guy. A bit of common sense tells you that every set of prints is also part of a different set of strategies. Right or wrong? Every single set of prints is also part of a different set of strategies. Right or wrong? Who agrees and who disagrees with me? Because let's take it in the most basic sense. If Sid had 1,000 shares of Meta from $200, he had it for over, let's say, 10 years. He's seen, certain market conditions. He's seen when COVID happened, everything got killed. But at the end of the day, he's been in Meta for so long. He's seen all these situations, but he always sees that no matter what, they still progress. They get bigger. They understand the situations, and overall, their valuation is always going to keep going up. And he loves the annual percentage that he receives on his position. He's a happy man. Is he going to? Is there a chance that he might not sell and just keep driving this and keep staying in there? Yes or no? If he's not worried about how much he's going to profit, but more so just staying and keeping his money on track like he has for over 10 years, he might not be concerned. He's like, that's fine, I'm okay. I'm in at 200. It's down to 480. What am I worried about? The only thing he could be concerned with, if he's not worried about profit, is does he have a bit more money to get in? He'll still have a great average. Now, let's say Stefan bought 1,000 shares at 600, and he's at or let's say 550 again to make life easier. But now Stefan has to have a position that remains in profit. He can't go backwards because he's not playing with much. That's all his money. He's got $1 million that he can play with. He put 550,000 on the line for Meta. What do you think Stefan's doing when this thing starts crashing towards 550 and lower? He has no choice but to sell because his strategy is different. His entry point is different. His exposure is different. So what you got to do is think about the overall here. Now, if you heard the tariffs of last week and you saw the massive sell, would that have been a smart time to take a short-term puts? Yes or no? A month out, 2 months out, 3 months out. Yes or no? Absolutely. Because the amount of selling, the importance of the news, and how diabolical this could be, does that give you a very high percentage short? Yes or no? Yes. And to further extend the idea, when you know this is going to be massive, just remember the big boys are going to help put pressure on the stocks to get them to go even lower so they can make a massive short-term gain on their puts, on their short positions, but also help drive at the same time the price as low as possible before any reaffirming news that could change the trajectory comes out, so they are prepared with new positions at a far lower price than maybe it was even going to go. They're not going to try and help you, are they? Who thinks here that when things like what happened last week happen and all this tariff stuff, who thinks the market makers are saying, guess what? I need to make sure I hold the stock up. I'm not going to sell. We're going to buy. We're going to keep this stock high because Stefan and Sid and Steve, they've all got their retail money in there. We want to make sure they're okay. Do you think they do that? Do you think they care about you, Shams? Do you think Goldman Sachs said, guess what, Shams has 10 shares in Meta. Come on, guys, save it. Or did they say, we want your 10 shares, Shams? We want you to sell so you can keep moving our position lower. You and every other person there is. Exactly. So use a bit of common sense. The first question you ask yourself about any particular stock you're looking at is, will this impact the stock or company in such a way that they will not be able to recover? Or is this a great company that in the end is going to keep its continued trajectory of higher valuation? This just becomes an opportunity event for us, right? So if we're looking at this now, what did I tell you all between 88 and 100 a few days ago in NVIDIA? What did I tell you all? Who remembers? I put it in the chat. But more than lots of buying, I did not say short term. Did not say short term. There's no way I could have said short term. When you got pages and pages being printed at a level, is that short term, Shams? Can that be short term? It could be, but we're not looking at could be's. We're looking at the highest percentages. Not at a particular level, Shamsi. Look, I said between 88 and 100. If I said it at 90 in pre-market, what was I saying? You guys got to read better and pay attention and ask questions when I put things in there. Why do you think it's different for me to say short term at 90 in pre-market? Why would I have said that? Because I know I said that and I traded that, but why? And I even told you why. The prints weren't big enough to be long term. The prints were very small. They were actively building a position at 90 in pre-market. If they want long-term shares, does it make sense in this particular situation to do it in pre-market, or will you have more than enough volunteers to give you shares in open market? What do you think? There's going to be so much volume. You can get whatever shares you want, and you're probably going to get it cheaper than trying to build a short-term position in pre-market. That's why I said pre-market was a short-term position. Why did I tell you like it was a short-term position? So that we can do what as those of us who are day traders? What can we do? We can trade it. Because at the time when we're here, we sit in front of the computer. Yes, we're looking at the prints and planning. Is there option positions that we can do, or swing positions, short term, mid term, long term? But we're still here. And if we're day traders, we're looking at, are there prints here that will serve us as day traders? Those prints served us as day traders. But what did we notice when the market opened and the volume came in and it started moving northbound from 88? Were the prints the same size as what you saw at 90? Or are they a lot smaller or a lot larger? So if they were a lot larger, Sid, what were those positions intended for? Uh-uh. Midterm or long term? Absolutely. I agree with that. Midterm and or long term. Absolutely. I agree with that because, and I love the way that you said that, Sid, and I'm assuming this is why you said that, is if it dropped 40, 50% in a matter of a week, and your position goes up 20% in a matter of a month, that's a huge midterm gain. And so you might take some off. So I absolutely agree. It'll be a midterm, long term strategy. Are we clear on how this makes sense, on how this works, or how my opinion on this is? Are we clear on that? The thing that you all have to remember is a week ago, these were all great companies. A week ago, everything was perfect. When tariffs come in, of course, it can affect business because now they have to price the product higher. Their costs will increase because of the tariffs. We as consumers have to pay more, which obviously, with inflation of the cost of the price, I'm sorry, is a lot higher. But you got to ask yourself, does that change our need for said company? Is there an alternative? Do you lot know an alternative that will make sense of everybody switching their iPhones and buying a phone made in America for cheap and that everybody will accept that? Ask yourselves that. Are you willing to walk away from your iPhone if it's $2,000 and you can get some other different US made company who says, guess what? I have a phone for $1,500 or $1,000? Or are you going to say, bite your teeth, get frustrated, question the government, believe everything's done to you, not for you, but yet still pay 2,000 and go get that phone? What's the reality of what most people are going to do? Not that, Millen. I'm not talking about that exactly. So it doesn't matter what the opinion of people is. In the end, most people are like lemmings. They're just programmed to fit into the system and do what the system says. Because that's what it is. Everybody's intertwined into a system, and on the edges of these systems and the nucleus of these systems are these companies. You're going to buy it no matter what. It will affect their bottom lines, but trust me, it's going to affect yours far more than it will ever affect theirs. They will continue to do what they must. And that the reality is, when you got business people running the country, do you think they just make hasty decisions on emotions, or do you think they strategize on what's best for business? Think about it. Most successful business people are always looking to do what? Thank you, Steve. In the end, they're looking to make money. Do you think, as the whole of the world, really, because it affects globally all stocks, but let's just keep it to America, who are the ones that are really crying about what happened? Who are the ones that are really crying? And I mean, retail to me is also someone that put $10 million, $20 million in the market, $25 million in the market. They still become very high net worth retail. Because even at 10, 20, 30 million, you're not moving any stocks. You could for a very short period, a few minutes, maybe a little bit longer, but you're not big enough to control the movement of a stock. Now, all the big boys, absolutely they did not like this. Absolutely they had to take some hits as well when this all started coming down. But in the long run, when they look at their net on this situation, do you think it works against them or for them? Absolutely for them. Now, I didn't take this short. Obviously, I was on holiday, but at the same time, I had no understanding or did not have an inkling that this man would change the dynamics and change the amount or percentage of what he was going to place as tariffs. I had no clue. I wasn't sure in this at all. Do you think after I got back and this thing has got absolutely battered, and I'm looking at this on Monday, do you think I'm looking at, can I find some prints to go short? Or do you think I'm saying this thing is getting really mullered, which makes it a great opportunity for me to look for option calls when the money flow favors the long term prints to go long? As I told you all before, you got the prints, you got common sense, and you have to put those both together, and then you have to add in some research. You got to think to yourselves about the companies in general, about who this favors, who it doesn't favor. And the reality was, this never really favors anyone. But when you do something this drastic, what do you think global leaders have to do? They have to pay attention and they have to come to the table and they have to really want to work on an agreement. Yes or no? Let me ask you another thing. Let's say, do you remember in the housing crash? Who's old enough here that lived through the housing crash and experienced their own difficulties through it? Their own home, an investment house, or something. Who here was in that situation? You had a house, it was worth X amount, you had a mortgage for X amount, the housing crash happened, 2008, your house is now half in valuation. So anybody here old enough? I'm 42. I had properties at the time when the housing crash happened, and I saw properties that I own go absolutely get mullered in value. What's the first thing that if you have a property or a home and you got a high mortgage and everything gets killed, what's the first thing that you'd want to try to get from the bank? A reduction, correct? Or have a reassessment of the valuation and have them reconfigure your loan? Yes or no? But let me ask you a question. If you keep paying on your monthly mortgage every month and yet send them emails saying, could you please work with me? Could you do something? You can see that my house is no longer worth 500,000 and yet I have a $400,000 note, but it's only worth 300,000. I think we need to change change the mortgage note to meet the new valuation. Are they going to do anything for you if you send emails yet make the payment every month? Are they going to do anything for you? No, because you're making a payment. Now, if you stop paying, do they turn their attention and come to the table? I'm not saying they're going to give you anything, but do they now have to pay attention and communicate with you? They do. So when I look at this situation, and remember, this is all my own opinion. This is not factual. This is not me giving you advice, but this is me simply sharing my opinions, which I believe are very high level, which are tested through times as I've lived through a lot of these times and been through these times in business. Is there's no way, and especially what we know today, a lot of these leaders aren't always just leaders of free world. They're not all liberal. They're not all part of governments. Some of them act alone. Some of them don't need to answer to anyone. So what does that mean? Sometimes you got to do things that are hugely diabolical, that are hugely impactful in order to get people to get on the table and make the right decisions and have the right conversations. Do you think there was some of that involved in all of this? I mean, we got countries at war, we got dictators, we got the most all powerful leaders of certain countries who have empirical power. Do you think they really care just because someone wants a fair deal? Or do you think sometimes you got to give everyone a kick in the face so that a real deal can happen? Do you think that's a partial play in all of this? Yes or no? Yeah, the art of the deal. That's right, Steve. Well, as much as forcing their hand, it's having them come and understanding that they need to negotiate. So it's 2 o'clock. Now I will throw it over to you lot. I'll give you guys another 10, 15 minutes. Who wants to come on and say a few words, or are we very clear? Clear? If you want to unmute yourself and ask questions, please feel free. I want to make sure you guys are very clear about where we are today. Okay, with that being said, the session is now done. I hope you guys have a better understanding of how I'm seeing and viewing the market. And that way, as we progress over the few days, as we're working ourselves throughout this situation, I hope you guys have a better understanding. I'm also I've just been pretty tied up when I was off holiday, a bit tied up with a few other things. I wanted to make sure my schedule is completely clear, but I will be introducing back at least one of these sessions, Traders Exchange sessions, to go over the swings and day trades once a week. But you're going to start seeing me a lot more soon next week go live with picture in picture on either YouTube or what have you. And I will start talking through what I know as I'm going and showing a screen, and you basically see me up here somewhere, and I'll talk through and I'll have commentary on what's going on. I will not be telling you how to trade, where to get in. Obviously, I cannot do that, but I'll be giving you a lot of synopsis on what I see, where things should go, what things are telling me, and that will give you guys far more easier understanding of how to think about all this if you guys think um, what I'm saying makes sense to you. Now, if it doesn't make sense to you, then I completely understand. But that's just how I view what's going on. I might be completely and utterly off base, but considering that I did say this week I expect there to be a halt or hold on the thought process of what the tariffs are going to do, and we should see a massive big day. That kind of happened already. Um, so yeah, I'm glad that you guys got a bit more clearer understanding. And if you have any other questions or anything else, please just put it in the room and feel free so we can all speak on it. You all enjoy the rest of the day and rest of the week.